everyone. How are we all doing? I'm so happy to be here with all of you. My name is Emma Ferreira. I am an artist, actor, poet, and I have the great honor of hosting, prompting this conversation, and to be in conversation with all of you. So that is very exciting for me as someone who is in the film industry in a different capacity, and someone who is very interested in everything that you have to say and all of the experiences that you've had. This is like super informative and interesting and exciting for me in that way. So I'm really grateful for that. And without further ado, I'd love to introduce all of you. So I will go through your bios. So we have Hannah Johannes, who is a film director, a screenwriter, and it just wave when I say your name, I guess. Is a film director, screenwriter, who's well known for her work on her critically acclaimed and award-winning short film Home Away, which has been featured on Issa Rae's Short Film Sunday series. Her work has been showcased in numerous film festivals worldwide, such as the San Diego Black Film Festival, NSI Canada Online Short Film Festival, and Real World Film Festival. She is currently working on her children's TV series called Girl Power, and has been nominated as one of 100 accomplished Black Canadian women selected to be honored and published alongside the Honorable Jean Augustin. Incredible. Hello, Hannah.
Thank you. Hi.
We have Naledi Jackson, who is a writer, director, and producer based in Toronto and Los Angeles. Naledi started as a screenwriter on Netflix's Anne with an E and Another Life, and directed her first short, The Drop-In, in 2017, where it premiered with TIFF. Her current short, Trouble, is a part of the Bite-Size Halloween Showcase on Hulu, and this is from a line from Cass, I believe, but this officially makes Naledi the genreless queen of stories in historical drama, action, science fiction, and horror. Hi, Naledi, nice to see you.
Hey.
We have Alicia K Harris, who is a director from Scarborough, dedicated to featuring the unique stories of Black women and the underrepresented. Her latest film, Pick, won the Canadian Screen Award for Best Live Action Drama, making her the first Black woman to win. Alicia is known for her high concept visual style, including elaborate and carefully curated set design, visible and distinct color palettes, which I think is so cool in all of your films. It's so cool. Stylized lighting and cinematography and unconventional storytelling techniques. And she is a lover of intersectional feminism, live music, Mariah Carey, and cats. And I feel you on that. We have Ella Cooper, who is an award-winning cultural leader, producer, director, facilitator, photo video artist, educator, and programmer based in Toronto. She has been working in the arts and culture sector for over 19 years. Her creative work explores the diaspora, the creation of positive representations of the Black body in Canada, equity and arts for social change, community storytelling, contemporary dance, and hybrid identity. She is also the founder of Black Women in Film Canada and has mentored dozens of Black women filmmakers through TIFF-sponsored programs and film camps. Her work has been shown in galleries, public spaces, and film festivals across North America and Europe. Ella also has a master's in arts education and teaches at the University of Toronto, and is also a senior writer for CBC Parents, and has a current series in development for CBC Kids with Karen Chapman. Hello, Ella.
Yeah.
And we have Yasmijn Nicolle, who is an actor, writer, director, producer, and the founder and director of Ebony Magic Productions, which has progressively become a beacon production company for Black artists in the Toronto and Montreal areas. Since the launch of her company, she co-wrote, produced, and directed her first film, Tangled, in which she received the First Time Filmmaker Award. Yasmijn is passionate about creating work from the perspective of underrepresented artists, which is, I think, is a theme across the board here, and makes me so excited to be having this conversation with all of you. So first question to get the ball rolling, I'd like to ask, and anybody can take it and run with it, and we'll just, go with whoever would like to speak. If you had to do a TED Talk tomorrow, what would it be about?
Oh, geez.
I know. That's a good question.
It is. Yeah.
I think my TED Talk would be about instinct, following your instinct. And it's often the quietest voice that needs to be heard. And I mean that, like, that internal quiet voice within you, that spark of an idea. I've noticed that sometimes I will let all, trying to be productive, trying to do all the things, living up to the expectations that I placed on myself, but often that quiet voice is the one that has the most wisdom and creativity. If I make space for that, and really follow that super intuitive instinct, usually that's onto something much deeper than my like workaholic, go, juggle everything mind thinks it knows.
That's so interesting. It's also like the comparison, like the body and brain comparison, like your body always knows, right? Yeah, that's
it's so true. Especially I find that so true in screenwriting too. Just like that little voice always knows. I think for me, it would be embracing the unknown in filmmaking. I wasn't formally trained or anything, but for the drop-in, I had to do a pretty intense martial arts sequence. I had no idea what to do going in, but I didn't let that stop me. I just went out and found the best people who knew way more than me to help me get through it. But I think not letting your lack of formal training or expertise hold you back from doing something that may seem incredibly challenging, and just kind of jumping in.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think we have like quite a spread of people who were trained and weren't trained here, I think, or so that's really, really amazing as well.
I like the idea of trusting the timing of your life and not comparing yourself to other people, because that's definitely something that I struggle with, especially as an actor. I see people that I went to theater school with and I see how well they're doing, and then that just makes me question and double think my progress. So that's definitely something that I have to work on myself. And also I would just love to shed light on the challenges that actors and even models have to go through on set, especially Black actors and people of color on set. To this day, I've never had like a Black makeup artist on set or a Black hairdresser, which is definitely something that needs to change in the industry because it's ridiculous. That's why I wear wigs, because I'm trying to make their jobs easier, because I know they can't handle what's under here. So that's something I'd like to talk about too.
And that's definitely something that has to be talked about across the board. Everybody needs to hear that for sure.
Yeah. If I was to have a TED Talk, I think it'd be purpose. It wasn't something that I found right away, like, oh, I know my purpose, but I always felt I was destined for great things just because of what my parents sacrificed coming to Canada. And I think it's okay to be confidently lost. Like if you don't know what your purpose is yet, or if you don't know what that niche or what it is, but just moving forward, despite your fears or self-doubt or feeling like an imposter, having imposter syndrome. I think moving forward, just feeling confidently lost, I think, and figuring out your purpose that way. Because what I found was I love storytelling, but I also love advocating for others. So I can relate to what Yasmijn is saying in terms of advocating for hairstylists, to see Black women and makeup artists. So that's something that needs to be talked about. Advocating for performers, the way, they're treated on set. Because that was something that was, when I did Home Away, I was very like, everyone is equal. No one is above or higher than anyone else. Like from the production assistant to the director, the story is the boss. Like that's the most important element that ties all of us together. So I think moving forward, even if you don't know what your purpose is, just being confidently lost in that and figuring it out along the way. So, yeah.
I love that line, confidently lost. I've never heard that before. It's awesome.
That's so good. That's so good. So I will move on to the specific questions. I have specific questions for all of you, but please feel free. They're kind of wide reaching as well. So after the person has answered, let it just like flow if you want to add on or continue the conversation. So my first question is for Ella. So you've defined yourself as a community engaged artist, and you serve as kind of a guide for filmmakers as a facilitator and an educator, especially being the founder of Black Women in Film Canada. So I want to know, what does community mean to you? How is it embedded in your artistic practice? And how does your working community influence the films that you produce and direct and the art that you create? Because I think community is something that is has always been important, but especially in these times is becoming increasingly important, especially in a world where community isn't necessarily everyone's bread and butter, or people don't know where those foundations lie and are searching for community. So I just want to pick your brain about that.
Like 3 questions in one.
I know. Like take whichever one you like to speak on. That's all.
I like your questions. They're big. They're juicy.
Yeah.
Community. I think in a way, I've always been about community in some way. Perhaps it's about healing community. It's about filling the gaps for me. It's also what feeds my soul. I like to say I'm an introverted extrovert, but I need community as well. And I like to be in service and have impact in the work that I do. And so, sorry, I'm trying to remember all the little questions.
No, just like how does it feed into what you do? That's basically the question. Yeah.
So I guess you notice that I hold a lot of titles, and I've just accepted that everything is actually under one umbrella. So for me, the titles are interchangeable depending on the impact that I want to have in community, or for my community. And though I will say it as an aside, I've also realized that it's really important for me to harness and make space for my own creative voice and my own sense of creative play as well, because that's also in service to community. But what happened for me was I went into the film industry, I went to Ryerson, I studied film and new media, and I already saw that little boys club forming, but at that point I was super naive. I was just whatevs. But then when I went and interned at first in film and television, I just thought, okay, well, there doesn't really seem like there's a space for me. I'm not super excited by what these folks are doing, and no one was really welcoming me in. And it was sort of that sink or swim approach. So I just went, okay, cool, I'm going to go off in this direction. So I ended up doing a lot more media arts empowerment based work. And I was facilitating other folks making their first films and photo-based projects. And I was really interested in how do I do work that's transformative. So that's why I love facilitation, and I love being a trickster in the midst of these spaces to break them up and shake them up. And then bit by bit, I mean, it's funny because I even had the honor of getting to be a mentor to Alicia, and she doesn't need any advice at all, but essentially it was so nice to be able to share what I knew about pitching way back when in Regent Park Film Festival, and then to see how she's taken off. So I've often felt in a way I'm coming with a lot of different skills, but the goal is to really be a springboard and someone that inspires others to move forward. But then I took a moment and went, hey, why aren't I directing? Why aren't I creating work? And then I realized, something happened back there that shut me down. And then I became in service to wanting to see other people really realizing their voice and their work. So then I also had to take a moment and go, I need you to start creating work too. And so that's why there's this dance between facilitator, community engaged, impact change, educator person, but then also I'm this artist, creative producer here as well. So, but I think what it is it's I love when I can tap into my joy, the things that I love, my passions, but it's also seeing change, and especially to see change in the industry where bringing more Black women together, seeing more access, making folks realize that it's there is space for you. And because I haven't been in the industry in the most traditional of ways, I don't care. I don't have baggage in the same way. I can just talk to people as people and go, hey, let's make this space, let's work together. So that is a really long-winded approach, but long-winded answer to your question.
No, it's a big
answer. I think community is everything, and if you're not in service to it in some way, your work probably will feel a bit empty.
Yeah, that feels very true. Thank you for that. That was everything I needed and wanted from that question. That's amazing. Okay, if anybody has anything to add to that, I don't know, or I can.
Well, I'll just add, I actually kind of almost forgot about that pitch that pitch thing. Thank you for reminding me. But it's funny because when I was going to start that pitch contest, that was like the third pitch contest that I had done in my career. And they always say you have to do a workshop. So I was kind of going into it like, another workshop, but yours was like the only one that was taught by another artist. And yours just had like, I feel like what was missing from like the mechanical approach of the other pitch workshops that I had done was like the heart. And I just remember being in that workshop, like expecting it to kind of be like, and this is what you say, and da, da, da. And yours was like, there was just so much heart in it. And I just, you just have like a different approach. I think like having all those hats and having all those titles, like you bring so much to each element of what you do. And I just love that. So thank you for being like one of the heroes that I've like continued to look up to. And yeah.
Well, the super cool thing though is that I was also supporting you and pitching Pick, and then like where that's gone. I remember just like hearing your own backstory on like creating that work, and to see you you were still working on developing your confidence as a director, right?
Yes.
And so that's what's exciting for me is when I get to meet people, especially like that's one of the things we've seen with Black Women Film is that we have been a catalyst to a lot of folks of just like creating this space that's different from what's being offered out in the industry right now. So it's so exciting to see where you've gone, Alicia. That makes it such a, like that makes what I do feel even more exciting.
Aww.
We love to see it. We love to see it.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Naledi, I'd like to ask, so your latest film, Trouble, had its premiere as part of the Halloween showcase on Hulu. You mentioned that this film was an expansion of horror and dread as you understand it, and that horror for you is very rooted in Black oppression. And you also explore the immigrant experience and code switching and attachment to homeland in The Drop-In through the genre of sci-fi and action. And I want to know, like, do you find that there's more artistic liberties when you're telling these stories through a specific genre? And also, like, how does being deliberate about including our stories in these genres, like, elevate them to more than just their entertainment value?
Wow.
You need I can repeat also. Like,
no.
Okay, cool.
It's fine.
I'm very wordy, and I apologize for that. But
no. I'll maybe speak to what you said last about elevating the genre. I mean, I can only aspire to that, but I think in terms of seeing it as more than just entertainment, I think what attracts me to genre filmmaking, or I guess filmmaking in general, is that it allows deeper insight into somebody's subjective experience. So like when I was saying, I find horror very subjective. Like some things I don't find scary, but I find the topic of enslavement is horror to me in its rawest and deepest sense. So I think like what I try and do with my films is allow the viewer an entry point into why this would be a horrendous or scary experience for somebody. I mean, for Trouble, it's about a Black pianist who's playing at a plantation wedding, which is, when I was thinking of like one of the worst possible things I could think of, that would probably be up there. Mm-hmm. And, you know, most people, like so many people don't have a problem with plantation weddings for some reason. And I'm always amazed that it takes somebody like Ryan Reynolds to come out and be like, guys, this is bad. I did it and I feel terrible about it. And then everyone's like, okay, it's bad now. Yeah. But we've all known it's been a big pile of shit for ages. So I hope that like with my characters, just being able to sit through their experience would allow a viewer an entry point as to why this is horrific and why this particular subjective experience can fall into horror or sci-fi or whatever. But I guess people use that term Trojan horse a lot, like sneaking in these ideas. And I find that horror and and sci-fi allows you to do that without potentially being too on the nose. You can play with atmosphere and tone in ways maybe it's a bit trickier to do with traditional drama, which I also love. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, totally. And also, like, I forget who said this. I don't know if it was an interview maybe with Jordan Peele around Get Out, or I forget where I heard this, but just this idea that horror as kind of this vehicle for catharsis. And so so when you're exploring themes like Black oppression and offering that as kind of like a vehicle for catharsis for a community in a different way than maybe we've seen through traditional drama, I think that's a really interesting thing to bring as well.
Yeah, I mean, like with even just the articulation of the sunken place in Get Out was such a big moment for me. It gave me huge chills in the cinema when I was watching that. And I was like, wow, nobody's ever really like nailed that in such a kind of profound but also ephemeral way. And I think that's why everyone keeps coming back to it in so many conversations. It really did something to push, I think, horror forward in a huge way, you know. So it's not just a scary movie. It's a cultural experience. It's a cathartic experience. It's all of those things.
Yeah, and as is Trouble. I was watching it, and it was just so. I'm really bad with scary. Like I watch like this because I have no.
I'm the same way.
I'm
the same. I'm like,
yeah. It was just it was so incredible, the tension that the tension between the door and the being on the piano. It was just so, because you knew it was coming, but you didn't want to expect anything. I just loved it. It was
thank you. I'm so glad.
So my next question then is for Hannah. So your short film Home Away, it was featured on Issa Rae's Short Film Sunday series, so cool, and is based on a true story that explores themes of teenage pregnancy and various family dynamics. And I just wanted to ask, so how has this story become personal and significant for you? And also significant because as I was watching it, and as you know, houselessness has become a growing epidemic alongside the pandemic that we're currently facing. Right. Has the story grown in significance in that way, just paralleling what is happening currently in any way for you? Because I just found it to be not that specific story was something that I thought, oh, this is happening like now, like this is like a pandemic, you know what I mean? But I just found it to be more significant because that is something that is kind of in the cultural sphere that is being talked about more right now. So
great question.
Thank you.
So with Home Away, it was based on my personal experience being pregnant at a young age. And so I wanted to, the reason why I created this piece, you know, like it's like my baby, is not to, it was more to, I realized the importance of demolishing stereotypes and stigmas, and for single parents, whether they're single moms or single dads. And I wanted to bring in awareness, because what I was seeing was, let's say a single parent is trying to look for a place to live, and they're denied that human right because they're a single parent, instead of just looking at them as a human being. So thank you, Ella.
Bye, Ella.
Bye. So it was just very important for me to realize, why am I creating this piece? And also to start from a place of my personal experience. It wasn't easy to share because I was like, oh, I'm very, it's vulnerable. There's a place in my life where I was vulnerable. It's very personal. It's something about my family. And I wanted it to be a story that doesn't include, at that point, focus on the partner, but more so the mother and daughter dynamic, and the cultural aspects of what happens when the daughter is pregnant, and then, the family shame and so forth. But also I wanted to create and expand on it because I wanted to show the power of forgiveness, and it highlight, like, homelessness and poverty. It's like, it's very, like in Toronto, it's living in Toronto is expensive. And so what I currently do in my daytime role is a program coordinator helping those who are homeless, who are having challenges with mental health or substance use, to help them, you know, believe in themselves, empower them, but to finding a place to advocate for them, because sometimes the system is not supportive and they oppress them, and it's hard, especially, you know, if it's newcomers or single parents or just anyone who just has any life hardships, you know. So that's how I advocate, is like speaking up for them, educating them, because education was drilled in our household. So that was the key. And I agree with my parents. When you have that power of knowledge and you try to teach and make people aware, you help them realize, you know, that everyone has bias, but also be kind to each other and help each other. And I try to do my part in trying to possibly maybe in the future create housing for single parents or for others. So that's something that's one of my future goals, because I've seen it. I know what it's like to be homeless. So yeah. So I started from the bottom and getting there. Yay.
That's amazing. No, that vulnerability, like the power of vulnerability in telling your own story, like you feel it so much when you're watching that film. Just like with the actress and like you can just tell how much is real that's happening there, or how much it's incredible. So thank you for telling your story, because it was a very beautiful thing to witness. So
yeah, I have to give kudos to the team, because if it wasn't for them, like the actresses Muna, just like everyone just was really, really important in creating Home Away what it was, the masterpiece that it is. And it's because of everyone's, everyone just put their heart and soul into it. So I appreciate everyone who did it. Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you. So my next question is for Alicia. I'm not on mute. So, and kind of for everybody, for Alicia. So after watching the musical film for Pressure and for When Love Came to Kill Us, there has been lots of talk about the current moment that we're in and creating work around the current moment that we're in. I wanted to get your perspective on what it is to, like, do you feel a responsibility? I don't like that word, but do you feel a responsibility to be creating content around Black stories right now? Do you feel excitement around the proliferation that is happening, especially with the past couple of years? Because when we talk about this current moment, all of you have been creating films around what we are now talking about, or what is now the the widespread of what we are talking about. You've all been telling these stories for a long time. So I guess I'm just wondering, like, what the sentiments are about going forward. Like, do you feel excitement? Do you feel responsibility? Do you feel like, there's a renaissance coming? Like, what are your feelings towards that? Because after watching the video for Pressure, I was just so blown away by how beautifully you crystallized this current moment, but also like histories of that story.
Thanks. Yeah, so just if anybody is watching and they don't know, that was a music video I did that basically follows the 2020 mainstream resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement. And I like to make sure I say mainstream, because one of the things that has been frustrating about this time is people kind of acting as if like this movement wasn't already happening since time, and just because it wasn't in the mainstream news coverage, there's still been people doing this work this whole time, beyond obviously like the worldwide protests that are happening. I wouldn't say that I feel a I mean, my main mission in my work is to create positive images about Black people, and to create the things that I wish I saw as a child, to kind of like fill the gaps that I think made me personally feel isolated, and that, I never really saw myself represented properly. And, you really internalize that, and it feels like your story isn't worth being told. And I mean, I went through hair being one of them, like this like isolating feeling of what's wrong with my hair? Why don't I see anybody that looks like this anywhere? And why isn't this being celebrated as, you know, why do I never see this as like the beautiful person or the person, you know, the model on TV, or pretty much when there was a Black person on TV, they had straight hair. So yeah, partnering that with, you know, people saying comments or whatever, yeah, it just, you know, going to my film pick, like, made the film that I wish I had seen as a child, and something that would have made me feel less isolated and know that I wasn't alone in like my insecurities that I was feeling, and that they weren't coming from me. They were coming from the world, and that was being put on me, because that's only something that as an adult I had to like take years to undo that, what I had learned basically. Yeah, but then connecting that to pressure, which is well, I felt a lot of pressure, no pun intended, in making that project, because, you know, when you make a music video, sometimes you come up with the idea, but sometimes the artist does have an idea. And what I got in the initial pitch from Coffee was they wanted the video to be about Black Lives Matter. So I knew that's what it was going to be about. But I would say I felt the responsibility to do the story justice. That was more what the responsibility was, in that I was so hyper sensitive and conscious about not making it exploitative. And I think that is something that non-Black people don't often bring to projects that are about Black people. So, you know, when you said like, do you think there's going to be a renaissance? I'm actually scared that there'll be tons of Hollywood movies made by white people about this exact time. So when I got the opportunity, and this was like a kind of Black directors only call out, when I got the opportunity to pitch and then I got the job and I got to make it, that was like my main concern, was I'm not trying to make something that Black people will look at and feel like our pain is being exploited for anybody. And ultimately the gaze that I had was the Black gaze, and the audience that I was trying to serve was Black people. You know, I wasn't trying to make something that was universal. I was just trying to make something that Black people would connect with. And yeah, it was really hard. But yeah, I'm really proud of how it turned out. And I'm happy that I got to make something about this time from my own perspective, that I think was done ethically and was positive. Because even though the video is serious, like, you know, in this movement, there is so much exploitation of Black people's image, that I just was blessed to have the opportunity to create something that wasn't.
No, for sure. And it's just so
it's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's so very beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah. And the strength that people are standing in, that is, it doesn't feel like it is like, you know, we have to be strong because, which is true, but it's like this strength that you see from the visuals, from the colors, all of it is just like, it's so beautiful and gratifying, instead of something that is you know, rooted in something else. So yeah, it was just gorgeous to watch. Yeah, and also opening it up to this idea of like around like Black representation, like stories that are told oftentimes by white people. And then you have, you know, what makes me excited in talking to all of you and this being out there, and is that there are so many young Black creators, young Black women, young Black non-binary people that are creating work right now. And my biggest hope is that they all run off and are the ones at the helm of these stories. But it is challenging because, you know, the industry that exists is not necessarily reflective of all of those young people, right? So yeah, when you said that there is that fear of that renaissance kind of being co-opted by something else, that is very real. I hear you on that. Cool.
Yeah, I think it really just comes back to like what is the intention. And
intention is key.
Well, intention and impact, because sometimes
Yes.
people don't intend to be exploitative, but you know, at the end of the day, I think the Pepsi commercial is a great example of that.
Yeah,
you know, their
that's
intention
true.
was to make money off of the movement that had now become, I guess, trendy or something, and their intention was to make money off of it. And what we saw was something that was so blatantly exploiting the movement to sell Pepsi that, you know, I don't know. It's just like, if there's going to be tons of Hollywood movies, like without a doubt, that are going to be done by white directors, and some of them might be good, but it's still like, what was the intention behind the studio? Did they really care about Black people? Because if they did, why wouldn't they have just hired a Black person to tell that story? There's no shortage of Black directors to tell those stories. Like a movie like Hidden Figures, I like that movie because I'm like, okay, there's going to be so many young Black girls that are going to watch this and feel like they can be scientists, and they've never seen a Black woman scientist ever, and they're going to, you know, really feel that they can be it because of this movie. But there was so much white savior stuff in that from the white male director or the studio that was saying, oh, we can't isolate the white audience, like we need to have this scene that obviously didn't happen in real life, but, you know, to please white people. And it's just like, what is their intention? To make the most money, you know? And it's not, let's make this movie for young Black girls and have it be, you know, in the doing so, have a Black woman direct it and, you know, try to bring up Black people in the process. No, it's just like, let's make the most money. So yeah, I think that you can always tell when you look at the final product, when what was missing.
Yeah, for sure. And I think too, now that with, you know, the advent of social media and the advent of all of us really being able to say what we need to say, and, you know, popular opinion, but also like, you know, the Black opinion, I guess, like Black Twitter going off, like that now has currency, like that now means something and can get in the way of like people's money, which I think is an incredible thing too. Or can be if used in the right ways. Yeah. Amazing. My next question is for Yasmijn, which is an interesting segue because with the production company Ebony Magic Productions, it came out of need to create content for yourself after seeing such misrepresentation on screen as an actor. So how does initiating and producing your own content change the way you approach filmmaking as a company in the business of change making? Like, how has that affected your practice and your process?
Yeah, my number one goal has always been to serve my community, and I do cater to culturally diverse audiences. That was always my intention. And yeah, if I want to speak selfishly, I just wanted to make more roles for myself. I'm not going to wait for the perfect role to just fall up in my lap. No one's going to want my career as much as I want it to happen for myself. So we really have to take our careers into our own hands. And that was one of the reasons why I made it come together.
That's incredible. That's very incredible. And I think, you know, as an actor myself, it's amazing to hear that people are doing this, because oftentimes, you know, you get breakdowns and you know, sometimes they're great, but a lot of the time it's like the same recycled stereotype.
Open ethnicity, always,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And somehow they've walked it far enough away from what we recognize deeply as the stereotype that it's just in that like kind of gray area. But then normally when you get into the writing, you're like, oh no, this is exactly what I thought this was. Yeah, so that's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's like I can count on one hand probably the amount of times that I got an audition that was like specifically for a Black girl. And
specifically for a dark-skinned Black girl as well, because
absolutely,
that is something that I find so frustrating, and I'm constantly being like, that's not me, like that is not a catch-all, like we have to stop using this catch-all, you know, for nuanced experiences.
For the longest time, I'll just add this one last thing. For the longest time, we've been relating to white characters. And I feel like if I can see myself as, let's say, Miranda from Sex and the City, then there's no reason that white audiences can't relate to Issa's character in Insecure. You know, it's only fair that they can see themselves in our shoes as well.
So true. Yeah, no, 100%. Yes.
I just want to add something,
Yeah,
sorry, before, just in regards to representation, I think it's so important. Like, I have 2 children, my son Samuel and my daughter Denise, and she really, like, when she sees representation on this screen, like if it's pick or, you know, like it makes her feel like, oh, I can be that person. Like, I can be a scientist. I can be, you know, like I can direct. So it's so important to see ourselves, but also just for the next generation too, just to feel empowered, to just feel like, yes, I can see myself doing that because this person did it and this person, you know. So I just wanted to add that in there.
Yeah. No, representation is incredibly important in all of its ways too. And I even like watching Pick, Alicia, I was like, I grew up in like small town Ontario where I was like, you know, the darkest person, one of the darkest people at my school, my hair, no one else had my hair. And I remember picture day rolling around and me being like, me begging, like, can I straighten my hair? And then if I didn't straighten my hair, it was like, oh God, like I'm the anxiety that day brought with it. Yeah. I didn't realize how like really deep that was like in me. And then watching it was like, as I said before, with like that idea of catharsis, it's just like, oh yeah, like when you feel that connection with other people to these nuanced stories, it just opens up it opens up room for yourself because you're able to kind of let go of those things that you've been holding on to, you know?
Yeah. And I think like people forget how isolating it feels to be a child, where you have all these feelings, you probably don't have the vocabulary to articulate them, or you don't really even necessarily understand where they're coming from. Like, I just remember growing up feeling like there was something wrong with my hair, like it had to be changed. And I, like the character in the movie, and like you just described, didn't grow up around a lot of Black people. So it's not like I grew up with like icons of people wearing braids and, you know, wearing their afro proudly and doing the big chop and like kind of like doing things that I later did in my life after seeing people on YouTube doing those things. But yeah, it is really isolating to be a child. And even though Pick is not the happiest ending, it's just real life. Like, I wanted to just show the reality of like what happens when people when people aren't conscious of their words, and how microaggressions, another word I don't really like because it makes it seem like things are small, but like when like everyday racism happens to you, and
it's not micro, it's
like everyday racism happens to you, and people like, you know, people should be as angry about that as they are about other like racism in its extreme form. Like, everybody needs to be as angry. And I remember when you know, Black Lives Matter movement resurgence happened, and everybody was kind of like, I saw a lot of vocal support for Black people from people who I'd kind of like been in real life situations with and like experienced microaggressions, and was like, you were there. I don't remember you saying anything at that time. And yeah, I just like, the main thing of Pick was just to kind of like show people like, this is also racism. Like, this is not, we shouldn't feel uncomfortable. Children shouldn't feel uncomfortable in their daily life because you have some sort of ignorant question or curiosity that you need to satisfy. Like, the fact that people reach out and touch Black women's hair, do they remember there was a time when white people owned Black people? Like, that is my question. Like, what more do I need to say other than that? Do you know? Like, it's just like insane that these things still happen every day. And that's like one of the smaller things. Like, there's people being forced to like cut off their, like my cousin had to cut off his dreadlocks to work at McDonald's. Are you kidding me?
The hair bullying?
Yeah. Are you kidding me? Like, McDonald's is making people cut off their dreadlocks? Like, yeah, I could go on about
buying a Big Mac again.
Yeah. Oh my
I
God.
know. How dare they? But anyways.
Yeah, no, truly. People don't, it was really interesting. I posted a poem kind of after George Floyd. I needed to say something, or I'd done so much writing and I just felt like I needed to put something out there, which afterwards you feel so many different complications about it. But I had so many I was just talking about like my experience growing up and at school, and the minor things that ended up having a huge effect on me as I grew older. And I had so many people that I hadn't talked to in years from my elementary schools reaching out and being like, I had no idea. And it's like, yeah, we're all kids and I get that. But there were also a slew of adults around us who also did nothing to educate or to reprimand or to do anything to protect me or to protect me and two other people who were at that school who were dealing with these things on a very daily basis, right? So yeah, it's the micro is not micro.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. So I guess we're almost at time. I have two more questions. So what are some of the challenges? Because I know people who are watching this, hopefully there's a slew of young Black filmmakers that are watching, young filmmakers that are watching this. But some of the challenges you face in financing your projects, and what top tips you would have for people who are either leaving film school or just getting into it and want to create a project. What are some like ground rule tips that you would have? Which is not a small question, I realize.
I'd say personally, apply for everything, just even if it means getting rejected all the time, just apply. If you don't have money to finance your first short, make a really bad first short, and just get it in the system. So like festivals or grant agencies or whoever just keep seeing you. Don't be discouraged by your first rejection. Like I get rejected all the time. I don't care. I'm just like, if I'm rejected, I'm in the game. Like, let's just keep going, So just keep applying for different grants, make alliances with other filmmakers, and look for mentors and peers. Just having somebody with more experience attached to your project could be key in getting it financed. And that means hustling. Like I hustled like crazy earlier on in my career, just going to film festivals, introducing myself to producers, doing whatever I could to keep moving forward. So luckily, Canada has quite a lot of public financing, whereas the States not so much, but the States has people with deeper pockets. But really leverage the provincial and federal money that's out there in any capacity you can to finance your films. That's what I'd say.
Yeah, that was great. Thanks. You pretty much covered everything. I'm in that process right now because my first film I financed myself because I was just like, I don't want to be bothered. I'm not begging anyone right now. I'm gonna have it told my way. And but now I'm in the process of looking for funding for my first documentary. So
awesome.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. There's like the Toronto film, I can put a list or something.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah.
But I feel like I've done it all. And sometimes like the Drop-In won a couple of competitions, and we got a camera package as a prize from Bloody Mary Film Festival, which I highly, if you're into horror or anything, apply to them because they're this fantastic female horror festival. And they gave us this amazing camera package that I got to use for Trouble for the next one. So it's like, if you just keep doing stuff in any capacity, it always helps your next thing and what have you.
Very cool. Thank you. My last question before we wrap up is, how do you find joy in your artistic practice? Because we talk a lot about the responsibilities and the big thing, but we're all here. You're all here. I'm also here because I'm an artist and I love that. But you're all here because you love filmmaking. to an extent, I would assume. So how do you maintain your joy when you're going through the process of making a film? Yeah.
Well, I can't see myself doing anything else. That's number one. I knew since I was 3 years old that I wanted to be a performer, and I want to be as well-rounded as possible as an artist, and they all just go hand in hand so well that why not be in front of the camera and behind the camera? So I just love it. And yeah, I don't have a plan B or anything like that. And this is all I know. This is all I'm good at.
For me, the joy of filmmaking, I would say my kids, because it reminds me of when I first watched a Disney movie, Lion King, classic. So that was something, all the elements of it just kind of like, wow, like this is really powerful, like visual storytelling. So I think my children remind me to just that joy, like that being present and just kind of like, yes, like just, you know, like when things are just like, it's just like, yes, like that anchor. So there's a thing that I noticed, I think that's where my joy comes from, my kids, and then my plants. I love my plants. When I'm writing or directing, I kind of have my
Yes.
So it just helps me. I don't know, just nature. Like I've been in gardening ever since I did quarantine, and just something about it just grounds me and just kind of like anchors me. So it's like, despite all the uncontrollable things, focus on what I can control and can do, and just leave it the rest just in my faith and my plants and my family. So whether it's blood or our chosen family. So it's my tribe. Yeah.
I love collaborating. I love being on set. I love it when my DPs prove me wrong on stuff. I think it's great. It's you know, when somebody brings a better idea, that for some reason brings me a lot of joy. So yeah.
That's amazing.
Is it because it's unexpected, or is it just like, oh, I never thought of that? Yeah.
Exactly. Like, you know, I can get very myopic and fixated on something, and sometimes it just doesn't work on set. And then somebody's like, you know, you might want to try it like this. And they present a completely different way of looking at things. And I find that delightful.
That's nice. Yeah.
I find joy in like every element of the process. And if you would have asked me like 2 years ago, like when I was making Pick, it would kind of be a different answer, because that was like a life changing, like I cut off all my hair. I was like, you know, becoming the person that I am today through that movie, that by the time it finally came out after being in pre-production for a million years, I was like, if anyone else likes it, that's great. But I mean, I've already accomplished what I needed to accomplish with this movie, which was to like unpack all these like negative feelings in myself and like be confident to like, you know, be myself again. And one of the main pieces of that was like casting my young actress who had an afro. And I was actually just so inspired by her and her confidence that I was like, what am I doing like with this hair I don't want anymore? But I heard like a really nice quote, which really resonated with me, which was like, all we have is the process, because like once it's finished, it belongs to everybody else. Yeah. And I find so much joy in the process. And I think there's been like a really negative history that of like, and not even necessarily from abusive directors, but just I think making films can be an abusive system. Just the idea that the way that the days are set up, and you walk into a film set and you just like feel everybody's stress and suffering and pain, and you're just like, I just don't want it to be like that. Like I want the process to actually be joyful. So I strive so hard to like remind everybody at the beginning of the day that like we're not here to dismantle a bomb, like we're making a motion picture. Like as much as I do want to be like we're saving the world with our work, like doesn't mean we should kill ourselves on the set to do it. We should be unhappy, you know? Like it for me, it's like it feels like a summer camp. Like we're all here together, like making this work, and like what a blessing that that's our job. Like it is literally my job to make beautiful images like that. There's nothing we should be stressed about. Like nothing that could happen on set is that, you know, high stakes, that this like the idea of filmmaking needs to have that feeling attached to it. So yeah, I just want to like be on more joyful sets where the people at the top are kind of like, you know, setting that tone, and I want to keep being the person at the top that's setting that tone.
Yeah,
Exactly. I don't want to be on any other sets with any other bad vibes. Like, I just want to be setting the positive vibe, because like literally you can have the best movie in the world and everybody on the team could hate that director because they were so horrible, and nobody that watches it will know. But I just want to keep working with people that, you know, want to work in that same way, and, you know, have that same value that like it's not like the ends justify the means. Like, no, we should all enjoy the process and be proud of what we were doing, and everybody's work should be honored and respected.
I agree.
Amen.
100%.
Where's the tiding? Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you all so much for holding this conversation. I guess if anybody, like, you can go around either like something you want to plug, like what you got going on or coming up, or what you're working on, or something that we should be watching, like something like a recommendation that you have. Any one of those things as to finish us off.
I'm writing and supervise producing on a show that's coming out on Apple next year called Shining Girl, starring Elizabeth Moss. And I'm also writing and producing on an Amazon show called Outer Range, starring Josh Brolin, that will be out next year too. So 2021, hopefully you'll see my name on some good TV, and hopefully I'll be directing a feature, y'all. Like, I'm trying. But when I do, I'll let you know.
Yes, let us know. Love to hear it. Okay, I guess I'm going next.
I have no way of knowing who's going next. This is all.
Okay, so I just recently got offered the opportunity to work on Big Brother Canada for the next season. So as a producer, senior producer. So I'm trying to pull in as many people as I can to work on, you know, because, you know, we had a great conversation in regards to, you know, like, you know, we need to hire Black people, Indigenous, people of color, like behind and in front. And because I've been working in the community and they see my work. Social justice seems to be the common theme with my work, even though it's like some is personal and some is documentary or based on others. That seems to be the common theme between my community work and filmmaking. So this was a great opportunity that I was not expecting, but it happened, and I'm excited, and I look forward to each and every one of your work, and yeah, just collaborating. Yeah.
I'll just say stay tuned for my first documentary film called Growth. It's about the stigma related to Black hair and hair discrimination in Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah. Woo.
I want to see that.
Me too.
I will plug my next short, which is, I mean, it's going to be, who knows when I'm going to get to film it because of COVID. But it's the second of my trilogy that I'm doing about Black hair. So Pick was the first, and this one is, you know, I wrote Pick about like when I was a kid, but this one is more where I am now. So this film is just about like Black hair as an art and how the spiritual and ancestral connection between Black women transcends the physical world. And even when we're the only one in the room, we're never really the only one, which is how I feel now, even when I'm constantly the only one in the room, because I have this community of Black women, you know, that I remember in those difficult moments. So that's the next one. So look out for that. It's called On a Sunday at 11.
Amazing.
Well, I really have enjoyed not being the only one in the room with all of you and having this conversation. Thank you so much. It's been so nourishing and heartwarming and informative, and I can't wait for people to hear everything that you guys have to say. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Emma.
Yeah, great moderation.
Great moderator.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, Emma, what are you working on?
Yeah.
You didn't say what you're working on. You trying to skip?
I am currently gearing up to shoot my first feature film next month. So that will be very cool. I have absolutely no idea what I can say and what I can't say. It's an indie feature, so, but I'm not versed. So I'm doing that, and I'm also kind of working on a play, a long choreo poem that will hopefully grow legs in the next few years. So that's an eventuality, but that's what I'm working on. So thank you for asking. Yeah, and I'm really excited to know you all and to see all of your work and to keep this conversation going as we all grow. So awesome.